Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special interview with Zoink Games, developers of the newly released FIA, one of the coolest games ever. And we are here with the game director, Andreas Beijer.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Yeah, it's I can't believe that we're both at the same. It looks like there's natural light coming from where you are, and there's natural light from, or is that just
Yeah, where are you at?
Well, I'm in the middle of America.
Wow, that's strange.
Yeah.
It's the middle of the day here, so it's still light.
Yeah, it's just morning here, so. And David's in Canada, where it's only light for 2 hours of the day, so you can never catch him. Just kidding. Anyway.
Not that Nordic, Perry.
Yeah. Anyway, my name is Perry Burkum, and yeah, I said it with previously mentioned with David Lloyd, other staffer, and Nintendo World Report. Say hello, David.
Hello, Perry and Andreas.
Hello. Yeah, so we're going to talk about FIA, the newly released game that just came out on all platforms, and especially, but the one obviously we're going to be talking about is the Switch, the best platform. I'm just saying. Now, yeah, so FIA is this wonderful game from Zoink. If you know Zoink, they did Stick It to the Man. They're doing the upcoming Flipping Death, the Zombie Vikings, and what else is there? What else, Andreas?
I would say.
Yeah, I mean, you've done obviously. So have you? So let's talk about your role on FIA. You're the game director, but you also do a lot of. I saw your name in the credits as level designer and other things. So
yeah. Zoink is a rather small company, so I would say that everyone at Zoink wears several hats. And it's a bit strange with titles and all that. But I'm the game director. I'm the art director. I do level designs, game design, coming up with characters, all sorts of things, really.
Gotcha. So yeah, you do a lot of stuff. So yeah, I mean, so let's get. So I'm a huge fan of Stick It to the Man. I don't know what was your involvement on that? Were you a part of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Me and Klaus sort of co-wrote all the puzzles and the basics of the story, so to speak, and then we more to sort of develop the story and to make it more fun, basically. With all the puzzles and blowing up whales and all that stuff is part me.
So you're one of the crazy people that made that game.
Yeah.
yeah, because that game is amazing.
On that too, actually.
Sorry, what?
I did quite a lot of the level designs on Stick It too.
Good. Well, it's funny because I feel like most people who have played Stick It to the Man and then they're playing FIA,
yeah,
I don't know if they're going to think this is the same developer at all.
No, it's a bit strange, but I think both the games are rather purple at times.
That's true. They do have a purple theme going on.
Purple and pink. There's a lot of that. No, otherwise, yeah, you're right. It's quite different. It is that. But I feel that you can still sort of feel that there is some sort of connection in it, I think. Cynical, we're trying to be... There's some dark cuteness to it. That's sort of similar to both games.
Well, and yeah, the heavily reliance on the environment and the all-encompassing nature of everything. It definitely, and I was playing it with my wife last night, FIA, and I told her, because she knows Stick It to the Man too, and I was saying, these are the same people, and she's like, I can get that because we were both saying, like, you can see the same amount of passion put into both projects and how that really shows through both of them. Kind of what you're saying. So, but yeah, so I mean, talking about going from 2D platformer to 3D, it's FIA is a departure from the 2D platform style that Stick It to the Man and Flipping Death are. So was it difficult switching genres?
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, especially with Fear, because there's so much verticality in that game. You can fly and you can climb high up and things like that. So it's quite different to design levels for it, of course, or design the world for it. But I mean, earlier, both me and Klaus and several of the other people at the office have worked with more full 3D games earlier, so we sort of knew what we're getting into. But yeah, it was quite different, but I think the biggest thing that was different was the way we sort of try to lead the player through the game. In Stick It to the Man and in Zombie Vikings, of course, which is quite linear. It's quite different how you sort of try to lure the player to go certain ways or do certain things. In Fear, we try to make it much more free and open for the player. So that was the big what was rather difficult and different from the earlier games.
Mm-hmm. And you do have the that very, very helpful bird that can come in and help you. I think that was ingenious, because anytime you need help, which for me is a lot because I always need help, anytime you can call your bird and he can, give you the general direction to go, and that's really cool. So, but yeah, I mean, the level environments, I mean, I think there is not a single person in the world that would not say that Fia is absolutely beautiful. I mean, just the color. I mean, just I love the kind of the low polygon shape, of everything. But it doesn't look low polygon. But then the cool like reflective textures and stuff. I've always been a fan of that. Yeah. So now, getting down to the core of it, I mean, a big part of Fia is singing, and it's really it's harmony, and it's finding common ground between other creatures, other beings. I love a big part of it is there's different languages, there's different cultures among everywhere, and you can interact with people, with things, without learning their language for a part of it, and then you get to a point where you learn the language, and then everyone there knows what you're doing, and you can suddenly now you have access to a certain new technique or thing. That's the kind of one of the forms of advancement or of upgrades in the game. I'd say is
Yeah, and sorry, was there a question in
the question? Yes, I was getting to that. What inspired that the singing, the communication aspect?
Well, if you've played Stick It to the Man, you know that we have done games with a hell of a lot of dialogue before, right?
Yes.
When we started working with Fear, we were trying to see if we could tell a story in a different way than we had before, without so much dialogue. But we still wanted to be able to communicate. And when we started to create all the characters, all the animals and stuff like that, we felt that we wanted to connect to them somehow. So I think one thing was that we started to talk about how you sort of, if you meet like a dog and you don't know the dog, how would you sort of approach it? How would you try to communicate with it? And we came up with this system where I think one of the thing we thought about as well was how it sounds when you tune a guitar. When you try to, if you play in a rock band and you're tuning your guitars and try to find the harmony where everything just works and fits together. And so that was sort of the basics for it. Um, that sounds maybe silly. I don't know. But that's how we started to talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, it does make sense because music is universal. Like with all the different languages, like you may not be able to talk to each other, but music in itself is universal throughout. And I thought that communication worked really well. Like even right off the bat when you start, like that first communication with that deer, it was just powerful because usually with NPCs, for the most part, you're kind of, yeah, that's nice, but there's you don't the way that you connect with the other animals in FIA was just astounding to me because once I got that deer, you proceed and then you meet like the villains. Like I'm pretty sure like I screamed at the television like leave my friend alone. Like I was mad. I was mad at the robots for taking the deer, and it's like, man, like it's not often that you kind of feel that emotion like right, especially so early in the game too.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it becomes quite powerful. I mean, it's a simple tool, but it creates something quite powerful, I would say. Just and I think in a way it has to do with not using words. I mean, you as a player can sort of fill in the gaps yourself and create that sort of what the communication means in a way, and that becomes stronger for the player, or at least that's what we hoped for when we created that.
Yeah, and I love the visual representation of the connection too, where it shows like you kind of have the two different wavelengths that become one.
Yeah.
And so it was like, so you could hear them connect, but then to be able to see them, harmonize, I thought was very, very powerful as well.
Yeah. And I think that the concept of the harmony and the melody working, I mean, because sometimes you're singing the same, I don't know if this was intentional. Sometimes you're singing the same pitch together. And then sometimes you're actually singing a different pitch that harmonizes with one another. And a lot of times, like because of the music, I mean, I guess I want to talk about the music. Like to think about developing this game from the start, the music is so like essential to the whole game. And it blends like perfectly with the gameplay. And so how do you start that like in the process of making a game? Like what is the composer doing? What's his role? Is he working? Is he just doing music, or is he like in there in the game from every angle?
From every angle, I would say. We're very lucky to be able to work with that composer, and he actually had his studio in our offices, so it was really easy for me to just go into his room, talk about the environment we were building right then, and how long you were supposed to walk before something happened, and we could time the platforming to the music and vice versa. So we actually, I know a few instances where we actually made the level longer to be able to hit the crescendo just right, and things like that. So he was very much involved, and he made sure that all the sound effects was in key with the music as well. And so I mean, Joel Bille is his name. He also made the music for Zombie Vikings and Stick It to the Man. He's brilliant composer.
Well, and Kenny Rogers.
Sorry?
And Kenny Rogers.
Yeah,
did the music for Stick It to the
Man. Sorry, Kenny.
Yeah, I mean that's.
Yeah, we couldn't get him on board on Fear, unfortunately.
Well, yeah.
I can see what you mean though with the music, because that's the way I felt in the levels, is you could kind of feel where you were progression wise just by the way the music, like you could kind of feel when you were coming up to something important, or when it was time to like just to take a minute to look around and see what you're doing. Like you could kind of feel the tension, I guess is maybe the way to say it. Like you could feel when there was something to do and that sort of thing. So yeah, like you can feel that the composer was a part of the process, as opposed to like, well, here's the game, throw some music on it, you know?
No, absolutely. And I mean, in a way, the way he worked with the music also sort of made the levels denser, the world denser, because I mean, it's quite simplified polygonal look to everything. But with his music on, it sort of creates the feeling of a dense forest, or a more dense environment in a way.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like the sound is literally half of the interaction, the experience. Yeah. So it's so important. I mean, that's what I mean. Most of my favorite games are my favorite games because of the soundtrack, because of the sound effects, because of the sound jumping off of a lily pad in the water to jump on, you know, everything about that, you know. I mean, of course it goes and it just works in harmony. Like the whole game, that's kind of a theme, is the harmony of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and in a sort of poetic sense as well, you know, communicating, getting along with animals, stuff like that. I mean, it comes down to that in a way.
Yeah. Now, the way, if people haven't played FIA, I mean, there is a really cool system of what you're doing. We don't have to go in, but I mean, there's different environments, and then you have kind of a certain goal in every environment to get done, and then you kind of move on. I got to think, you know, I mean, FIA is such it's a very robust, but it's a big experience. But were there like any other gameplay elements that were planned like early on that, like from the very beginning, that maybe, and then after a while, like, you know what, the game will work better without it?
Yeah, as always, a lot, you know, and everything from being able to mark your turf and not peeing on trees, and you know, a lot of different things. We had, for the longest while, we had deers that could drop like acorns that you could plant and have them grow trees. That was really cool, but it didn't really make sense in the end because there were so many trees anyway, so it didn't really help the game. So yeah, absolutely. There's always stuff like that.
Yeah, I think you just made a great DLC opportunity with the territory marking.
You know what? If anything that would tie it back into Stick It to the Man, if you're going to do something that introducing some characters from Stick It to the Man, that I was half expecting at the end, you know, for someone to pop out somewhere and just completely ruin the ambience as a joke. Just kidding.
We did joke about that quite a lot, but in the end, with Fear, we tried to, or we did release it on all platforms at the same time. It was really a lot of work, so we didn't really have time to goof around. Unfortunately, that would have been funny to do something like that.
I like the camera pans out and it just keeps panning out, and it finds out it's just like a pimple on the back of someone's, you know, and it's like a prequel to Flipping Death.
Exactly.
But no, I mean, the game is, I mean, I just finished it last night. It's an absolutely beautiful experience. I played it on Switch. Loved it. I loved the length. I don't know how long. I've heard people say they can beat it in 3 hours. I'm no doubt you probably could, but I think I was more around the 5 or 6 hour length of what I beat it, and I love that, because this is definitely a game that it's going to be like, you know what, I want to play through FIA today. Like, it's going to be a game that in the future, you'll come back to, you know, and I don't know if that was kind of an idea of the length. I mean, what did you think of the length of the game from the beginning? Like, what was your plan?
7-8 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, it might be me having. I have a son. I don't have much time to play games, but you know, I have a backlog on Steam with like 200 games that I never play because, you know, I don't have the time to invest in it because they're too long. So I really like games that length. I really like to be able to play through it, to sort of get a feel for it properly, and be able to sort of finish it. So I think I would say that we aimed for 7 to 8 hours, something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah. That's fast. I would say that's faster than I could do it in, I guess. But with Fear, we wanted to create a game that didn't really push you forward as a player. We wanted to give the player a game where you could take your time with the word, because that was something that we felt was missing, basically, and we wanted to see if we could do that, to give the player the responsibility, or to play the game in his or her own way. It's hard to say how long it takes for everyone. I mean, 3 hours or 7 hours.
Well, it depends on like the crystal or the crystals, I guess. Like if you're getting the because I mean, if you could rush through it if you weren't looking for like the hidden stuff.
Yeah.
But the other thing I found was, like, for me, I was doing a lot of just kind of looking around, like, the bird was like, go here, and I'm like, but there's something interesting over there first. Well, I'm just gonna go look over there first. And
I have like 15 pictures I took yesterday of these shots. They're so cool. Like I took a picture because I wanted to send it to you, Andreas, because it was I took the picture of the exact moment that the game, when a game really clicks, like when you get that feeling that it kind of goes into your chest, like of amazement. I'm going to send it to you. The exact shot, the exact tree I was sitting on. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, what David was saying, I mean, yeah, there is a lot of, I mean, it's all about how much you can appreciate the game. And if you just want to make it to the end of the game, that's one thing, and it's fun to do. See, the thing is I would love to go through it again, like just right now, maybe just quickly, and see how fast I can do it. That has that appeal too. So,
I like the
runners who I think the world record is now something slightly under 1 hour, something 57 minutes or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's too fast. You can't appreciate it that fast.
No, I would say.
Well, I like too, like the sections I thought were perfectly sized, because it gave you time where you go to one section, and you can, if you take a little bit of time, you can really familiarize yourself with the section. Like, it's small enough that if you're there for a little bit, you don't even really need a map, because there's like a distinction where it's like, okay, I remember, like the big one for me was the bird with where you're like trying to help the bird, the big huge bird. And it's like, okay, like I can, you go to each section to get the things that you're supposed to be getting, but you kind of, you get that feeling of, okay, I remember like this part of it and this part of it. So when I went to get the thing and come back, like I wasn't even looking at the map anymore, because I just knew where I was, because the section was just kind of perfectly segmented, where it's like, okay, I've got my bearings, since I've kind of looked around and said, oh, there's the water, like the river and the tree, and there's the cave. And so, yeah, like if you, I think the 78 hours was about where I was going to end, like where I would be, because it's, like I said, and then after you kind of done what you've done, it's nice to look for, because a lot of the hidden items, you kind of need to finish the section to kind of get the ability to then use it to get the stuff. So it's like you can be done and you could move on, or you could just take a little bit more time. And
yeah.
So
yeah. Because we have hidden in a way that you need to sort of revisit an area later on in the game. So if you really want to find everything that's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Talking about, elements before, the final release that maybe were scrapped or something like that. I have to understand. I mean, so because FIA isn't really it's a non-traditional game. I feel like. I mean, it's traditional in a lot of senses, and it's non-traditional in a lot of senses. And so, I wonder, was there anything? And it could be nothing, but I just, from your perspective, Andreas, is there anything that you were like worried of the mass players would not understand or not, you know, like wouldn't like? Is there anything like specifically about the game?
Well, the sort of abstract storytelling, perhaps. We couldn't. I mean, one great thing with working with the EA was that we were able to try something like this. Maybe we wouldn't have dared to do that if they weren't on board, so to speak. So one thing is the, you know, to give the player control over the whole story in a way, to discover the story rather than we telling them the story. That was, for me at least, that was a bit a bit scary, to be honest. And it otherwise, I mean, yeah, there are. It's really hard to say that, but I think that was the biggest thing, really.
Yeah, yeah, and you know that's what I was thinking too. You know, just the way the abstract, you know, it's told through, well, not just through the gameplay and through, you know, the interactions you're doing, but there's also many, like, I don't know what you call them, cave paintings or
yeah,
no,
petroglyphs.
There you go. Thank you, David. I knew there's a reason I wanted you on this.
Yeah.
Interview.
That's my Nordic heritage again coming in.
Yeah. You know, so getting through it, it's a pretty epic experience, pretty epic story. And then there's also, I like the parts of the gameplay that break up. You know, with when you find the stones, and suddenly you're revealing, maybe is it a memory or is it I don't know if it's a memory. See, it's like that's the thing at the very end. I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, you get a different perspective is what I'm trying to say from, and I thought that those were like scary and like, you know, emotions inducing. So I could see how, you know, something like that.
And I mean, it's a sort of different way of telling a story. You can say that there are, in a way, there is like 3 storylines that goes parallel throughout the game. You have your own actions and what happens as you play. Then you have the petroglyphs the sort of hieroglyphs that you find scattered around the world as well, and you have those old ancient sort of helmets with a, I would say it's a memory still in, you know, still in there that you can sort of take out and you.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now, before we go, I do want to talk about what you were saying before. You did release this on all platforms. It was developed using Unity. And how was that? How was that developing? I mean, do you usually release for all platforms? Have you done that before?
No, not at the same time. I don't think so. But I mean, we have done. We have worked with Unity for quite a long time now, so we're quite comfortable with that system or that engine. And we had some great help from the Unity people. They're great to work with. And we have released to all the platforms except for the Switch, because that was brand new when we started to develop for it. So we hadn't done that before. So it was exciting, of course, the whole thing, but I think it went pretty well. I mean, we're used to, I mean, I think we have done Unity work for PS Vita, and I think, and we were the first to do that, I think, with Stick It to the Man, and we're sort of used to do to make games for platforms that are brand new. So we're used to all the hassle that comes with that.
Is there Switch specific things that need to be done? Like, one of the common things we see now is a game will come out on like PS4 and Xbox with a Switch released later, but you guys were able to do all 3 at once. Like, I'm just curious of the process of, like, are you just making the game in Unity and then kind of just testing it on the system and being like, okay, it works on all 3, or do you like literally have to like write 3 different games almost.
No, that's the beauty with Unity. I used to make games like 20 years ago when you had to basically do a completely new game every time you would release a new system, and that was really hard. But with Unity, it's not like checking a checkbox, but it's more work than that, of course. But it's a lot easier nowadays. So
that's streamlined, I guess.
Yeah, so you can reuse pretty much everything, and then you have to do some specific things. Maybe the programmers would kill me but it seems to me, at least, who's not a programmer, that it's fairly easy nowadays. Differently on Switch compared to the other systems is we have removed some post, graphic effects, anti-aliasing, I think, and a few shadow casting lights, things like because of the GPU, and we have pulled the fog a bit closer to the camera in certain areas to sort of help the frame rate a bit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can engage.
Well, hopefully other developers follow your lead. And now when somebody says, well, the Switch will come later, and we'll be like, hey, Zoink made it happen. Why can't you?
Yeah, right.
Yes. Now everyone's gonna not like you, but no, I'm just kidding. But now, are you a Nintendo player? I mean, I know you said you play on Steam, but I mean, are you a big Nintendo fan?
I mean, the Nintendo crowd is such a friendly bunch. I really really like the Nintendo crowd.
Well, thank you.
When as you can see, I'm an old geezer. So I played on Nintendo 8-bit once long time ago. And I would say my favorite game is probably Bionic Commando on Nintendo 8-bit.
Yes.
All-time favorite game. Right?
That's one of my favorite Game Boy games, too. The Game Boy port is amazing. But yeah, wonderful.
As well.
But I mean, do you still keep up with Nintendo?
Mainly as a work thing, because something happens with you when you start to make your own games. You play games differently now, or at least I do that. I play games rather differently now than I used to do when I was younger. Now it's very much about just checking new games out, see the basic mechanics of it, see how they've done the graphics, get a quick feel for it, and then pass it on to my son, and he plays it, and I can watch. Because you sort of ruin
research and development.
Yeah, you become a developer in a way. It's hard to play games the same way I used to when I was younger. I can't really do that anymore. I'm ruined by development.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, which is unfortunate. But the nice thing is when you are when you can get some work done, you make some beautiful things like this certain game right here, which is FIA on the Switch, and everyone should play this game. I think everyone will love it. I really want to thank Andreas for coming on the podcast, coming on NWR-TV. Tell us about his amazing game. And I want you to tell, where can we follow Zoink? Where can we follow you on Twitter? Or unless you don't want to, or if you want us to send you, what's your email? No, I'm just kidding. But
my phone number.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to market.
Yeah. He said whatever you want to market.
Okay. Thanks. Zoink Games has a Twitter account, and this is not my game. This is Zoink's game. So you should follow Zoink Games on Twitter. I think that's the best place. And I mean, our community manager Alexandra is so great. So you should follow the account just for her. At least.
Yeah, she's a lot prettier.
Yeah, than me. Yeah.
Just a little.
Yeah, a little bit.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again. Thea, it's on all platforms, so there's no reason to not get it. It's a wonderful game. It's definitely not a game to skip on because the plethora of games coming out nowadays. It's definitely what you'd expect from Zoink. It's a very passionate project. And we have a couple of fans right here, Andreas. Big time fans.
Yeah, and to be honest, like that type of game isn't normally something I play. Like I'm more of an RPG guy myself. So when I was doing the review, I was a little concerned. I was like, there might be somebody who's more appreciative of this. And then I think it was about a half an hour in. I'm like, no, this is mine. No one's taking it.
Yeah, he's sending me texts like, guys, this game's amazing.
Yeah, so glad to hear that.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
All right, well,
really loved it.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check out our other interviews, reviews, and content on NWR TV. You can find me every week on Talk Nintendo Podcast. But thank you again, Andreas, and you have a good day.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you for having me on the show. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Goodbye, David.